Party pooper. Teenagers should be seen and not heard. Here's your look at the McFarlane toys. Batman the Classic TV series. Julie Newmar's Catwoman. Kapow! The debonair millionaire Bruce Wayne may seem like your average cool cat, but you'd be wrong. With the flip of a Shakespeare head bust into the Batcave, Gotham City is filled with a rogues gallery of criminals eager to unmask the Batman, but they are thwarted by the Cape Crusaders' own clever ways. Some would say that Julie Newmar made the perfect Catwoman. Do you agree? Let me know down below in the comments section. In the meantime, though, I'd like to thank the folks over at McFarlane Toys that did provide this sample of the Batman 66 Julie Newmar Catwoman that we could look at in this review. We're going to also bring in a couple of figures for comparisons in a second. Let's not get ahead of ourselves, though. First, let's grab the tape measure, clickety-click, barber trick, right to the very top of Catwoman's head. The figure seems to stand exactly 6 inches in height, or she's 15 centimeters tall. I believe in real life, Julie Newmar was 5'11", so she was a tall drink of water. But how did she stack up, so to speak, when it comes to other Batman figures? Well, here's what she looks like with the Batman Adam West Batman, at least. And she is just a little bit taller than Batman, which I think is correct in the series. Here's what she also looks like next to recently looked at Two-Face. And here's also what she looks like with Otto Preminger's Mr. Freeze. I think we also just recently had a look at him as well. All of these 3 figures right here, follow my finger across, are about the same size. It's only really Two-Face that's notably taller than the rest. If you were hoping to see Catwoman with her cat gun, unfortunately, no. No, the figure doesn't come included with a cat gun. She does, however, though, come included with 2 versions of onomatopoeia. This one actually is yow. I love how they always put the tongue on the inside of the O. And then this one is aye. Pronunciation, of course, is debatable, but either way, though, these are still those starburst effects that clip onto the figure's wrists. I just happen to have still the ones we looked at from Mr. Freeze. Mr. Freeze was Bonk, and it was also Clank. Again, you don't have to really commit to these ones being the ones you're always going to be displaying with Catwoman. If you'd rather instead display this with, say, Mr. Freeze or Two-Face, you can do that. You can do whatever you want. But you're going to, either way, though, take these and you clip them onto the figure's wrist. Now, again, you can clip them on the inside, but I always really recommend to have them clipped on the outside, because when you have the figures displayed then, it's the thing that you're going to be looking at outwardly as opposed to inwardly. Again, it's entirely up to you. And then we can take the yow, and we can also clip that onto. These are soft plastic as well, so they're super easy in order to get them onto the figure's wrists. Although with Catwoman, she has slightly smaller wrists. So you'll notice, like this one here, for example, sits really loose. I suppose you could heat this up with a little bit of hot water to make the clamp a little more closed shut. But yeah, it's a little looser on Catwoman's wrist, sadly. Not only does she not include the cat gun, but she also doesn't come include with a whip. I think a whip would still be something that they could include. I know guns is a big no-no, but they probably could still have used the whip. Cat gun, though, on the other hand, could be also packed along with the Mr. Freeze. If you've already seen my review of the Mr. Freeze, then you already know my disappointment that the figure didn't come included with a freeze gun. But I do think the freeze gun and the cat gun could also be packed inside a 66 accessory set. Please make that happen, McFarlane's team. Catwoman, though, at least played by Julie Newmar, some would say was the best Catwoman of the 3. We had Eartha Kitt also playing the role of Catwoman when I think the 2nd series or 3rd season came around, and Julie Newmar was unavailable. I think she was doing a stage play by that time. Also, there was the Lee Merriweather Catwoman that played in the 60s Batman movie. And again, Julie Newmar wasn't available for that. Head sculpt-wise, again, I really do like the head. A lot of times, though, in the series, Julie Newmar tended not to have the mask always on her head. It was only really when she was doing a crime that the mask tended to be down. A lot of times, though, the mask was either further up or was just off completely. Now, I don't think that there is an unmatched version of Julie Newmar. I think the only one that we've gotten so far of a Julie Newmar is the one that has the mask. And I'm sure there really wouldn't be much that's involved in order just to retool this. It looks like there'd be likely an unfinished head or finished head underneath the mask. And I mean, obviously I could peel the mask off, but underneath I think I would only be leaving myself with disappointment, as it would be obviously carved in parts where the mask would be sitting on top of her nose, for example. I'm okay right now with a masked version of Julie Newmar. But though I hope that at some point, literally, they wouldn't have to really tool anything new to the figure's body, literally just re-releasing the figure with a mask off her face instead. But I do think like the head sculpt is really good on this one. Spinning this around so you can see from all the sides. Her hair, I think, is a little too short, but one thing at least it does is it does clear her shoulders when it comes to rotating their head back and forth. The plastic that they've also used for her hair seems slightly softer too, so it makes things a lot easier when it comes to rotating her head, both up and down. Well, we'll get into the articulation more in a second. Not only does she have her mask, it's more of a shinier black that they've used here, but they also have given her ears, which don't seem as shiny as her mask itself. There is also an Eartha Kitt's Catwoman, but I don't believe there's a Lee Merriweather version of Catwoman yet. But Lee Merriweather was pretty close to resembling Julie Newmar anyways. If you picked up more than one of these, you could probably easily pretend that one is Julie Newmar and one is Lee Merriweather. One thing I also really like about the costuming, first of all, it was skin tight to her body. I think she was also one that recommended having a belt, that she liked to have it sit really low on her hip, so you would even draw more attention to it. The actual belt, as you can see here, is molded nicely in a gold plastic. She also has, of course, the gold necklace wrapped around the top of her shoulders here. It doesn't wrap around her neck necessarily. It kind of sits more on the sides of her shoulders instead. And one thing you probably can also see, too, is the skin-tight suit for Julie also has this really nice glitter effect. You can see it's all across the plastic. I'm guessing they likely molded that into the plastic, used the plastic that had the glitter, and then they simply just cast the body with it. I don't think they've gone in there. Maybe they even could have easily just painted the glitter, I suppose, on top of it as well. Now, she does have high heels, kind of more boots than anything else. The figure does not have, in this case, obviously, peg holes in the undersides of her feet. I guess they could have technically put the peg holes there, but she doesn't have peg holes. All of the figures, I think, up to this point, even including Batman, for example, have had holes provided on the bottoms of their boots. Catwoman is one of the exceptions to that. Overall, again, it's a nice-looking Catwoman. I don't think there's really anything I would have changed, but I'm certainly open to the idea of getting a variant at some point down the road with an unmasked Julie head sculpt. Who else would be interested in that? For the articulation on Julie Newmar's Catwoman, let's have a look at that right now. The head rotates all the way around. And because the way the hair is sculpted, after all, shorter and curled at the bottom, it doesn't have any problems whatsoever when it comes to rotating the head all the way around. In addition to that, when it comes to these shoulders, despite its lacking articulation in the lower end of the waist, at least from the waist up, she has some decent articulation, and that's pretty consistent with the other 60s Batman figures we've looked at so far. Not only can the arms hinge out comfortably at 90 degrees, but you can also take the arms and rotate them all the way around. And on the other side as well. Now, obviously, it's going to be the exact same. I don't want to say obviously, because sometimes there's figures that don't have the same articulation on both the sides. Figure does have, in this case, only just a single hinge in the elbow. The elbow does not rotate. There does not seem to be a cut. Now, with the Batman figures we looked at before, Mr. Freeze, Two-Face, even Batman, I think Batman also had it. Yeah, Batman also had... No, I don't think he did, actually. Yes, he did. Yes, he did. I have to correct myself quickly. Julie Newmar's Catwoman does not actually have a swiveling in her forearm. It doesn't look like it is. Let me just rotate it. Oh, actually, my mistake. There is actually a swivel in her forearm. And hands rotate, obviously, all the way around as well. The waist itself does swivel back and forth. And when it comes to, again, the figure's legs, there is no splits on the legs. In other words, you can't bring the legs outward. All you can really do, unfortunately, is do a forward and a back motion on the legs. And with the additional articulation, at least on the knee, it allows the lower leg at least to rotate. And she has no articulation here for the boots. So again, like, you're only getting the articulation where it counts, I suppose, in the shoulders, in the elbows, and in the knees. But I do wish, again, that they could have added the articulation here in the thighs. Even if it's not something I plan to use with the figure, it's always nice. It's always nice to be able to have that still. And then just to put down Catwoman, getting her hopefully to stand here. There is, again, the Eartha Kitt version of Catwoman, which honestly, I think, like, Julie Newmar's Catwoman was easier on the eyes. She was definitely a prettier looking Catwoman, I feel at least. But gotta say, like, when I got older, I found more an interest in Eartha Kitt's performance as Catwoman. She really hammed it up for the role. And while I think many people would usually gravitate towards the Julie Newmar for their preferred, that didn't work as well as perfect, but preferred Catwoman in the series, I don't say overlook, though, Eartha Kitt. Again, the way that she played into that role, I think she brought a lot more when it came to the acting of Catwoman in the series versus what we got from Julie Newmar. Julie Newmar, though, was still a great-looking Catwoman, not denying that at all. But I'm super excited as well to pick up Eartha Kitt at some point and have perhaps the two displayed Catwoman together on the shelf. Growing up and watching this 60s Batman series, I had a huge crush on Julie Newmar, and what person didn't? A slender, seductive femme fatale who always seemed to be beating Batman, not by just wits alone, but she always seemed to get to him emotionally. Batman had a hard time to separate his feelings for Catwoman, which seemed to be diminished a little bit in the later seasons when Eartha Kitt took to the role of Catwoman. The earlier seasons, though, Batman was always trying to save Julie Newmar's Catwoman, and you could definitely see that there was something going on behind the scenes between the two of them. Now, obviously, when it comes to this release of Catwoman here, she doesn't come with much, really, of anything other than those onomatopoeia pieces that clip onto her wrists. I do wish that, the figure could have come included with her cat gun, a whip, or even just a big, giant, outrageously sized jewel. Something that could have come with these outside of just those clipped-on pieces. In fact, you know what? That's kind of consistently across the board with all of these Batman figures we've looked at from the 66 series. They don't tend to come with really much of anything when it comes to accessories. I hope that's certainly something that does improve with future releases, because I do wish that Catwoman could have came with a lot more than just the things that she did. This figure also has, not mentioned maybe as much in this review, a harder time to stand, just because, again, like she has the high heels on the backs of her boots, and she doesn't have pegals on the undersides of her feet. The figure has taken a tumble a couple of times while this is spinning around on the rotisserie. I am still looking and eager to open up and have a look at the Eartha Kitt Catwoman, which we will be looking at in an upcoming review. I don't think, again, we've ever gotten ourselves a Lee Merriweather Catwoman, and I don't believe either we've also gotten ourselves an unmasked Catwoman. I hope that's something that gets fixed down the road as well. But what do you guys think of Catwoman? Let me know down below. And even a bigger question to ask you guys as well. Who is your favorite actress to play Catwoman in the 60s Batman series? I know, again, I started saying Julie Newmar, and my heart belongs to Julie Newmar's Catwoman. But again, as I got older, I found more of an interest in Eartha Kitt's portrayal of Catwoman, as she seems so more radically over the top. Let me know down below in the comment section. And again, a big thank you to the folks over at McFarlane Toys that did provide the sample of Julie Newmar's Catwoman that we could have a look at in this review. If you enjoyed this review, by the way, want to hit with a like. If you're loving the content you guys are seeing and want to stick around for more, then make sure you hit the subscribe button down below and turn on the bell notification. And as always, guys, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.